Captain stood on the bridge of the UNS Mercy and watched another rescue operation unfold. His ship was massive, painted white with red crosses on every side. For 15 years, he had traveled across the galaxy saving lives. Today, his medical teams were helping the people recover from a plague that had killed millions of their kind. There were large reptilian creatures with scales like armor and eyes that glowed red. They were warriors, proud and strong, but even warriors needed help sometimes. Watched his doctors and nurses move between the sick soldiers, giving them medicine and care. His crew never asked questions. They just helped. This was what humans did. For 200 years, humanity had been the peacemakers of the galaxy. When wars broke out between alien species, humans arrived to negotiate. When disasters struck, human aid ships came with food and supplies. When refugees needed shelter, human colonies opened their doors. The Galactic Council had four major powers. The Empire controlled the eastern sectors with their mighty war fleets. The Krill Collective, insect-like beings with hard shells and sharp claws, ruled the southern regions. The Federation was made of beings of pure energy who claimed the northern territories. And the Depths Alliance, water-dwelling creatures, held the western space. These four powers argued constantly. Small wars happened every few months, and humans always stepped in to stop the fighting. On the colony world of New Pyongyang, Administrator was finishing her daily rounds. She walked through the main settlement where 40,000 humans lived and worked. But humans were not alone here. 15,000 aliens also called this place home. They were refugees from a dozen different species who had fled wars and disasters. Had built schools where human and alien children learned together. She had constructed hospitals that treated any species that needed help. The farms around the settlement grew enough food to feed everyone, and they even sent extra supplies to nearby worlds that were struggling. A young krill child ran past her, laughing as it chased a human boy. Both were covered in mud from playing near the water treatment center. Smiled. This was why she did this work. This was the future she believed in. But not everyone in the galaxy saw things the way humans did. Diplomat sat in the Galactic Council chambers on the space station called Unity. He had just finished presenting evidence that the Empire was stealing medical supplies meant for plague victims on the outer worlds. Ships carrying human medicine had been stopped by warships and emptied of their cargo. The ambassador, a huge creature named, laughed at. The sound echoed through the chamber like rocks grinding together. Other council members joined in the laughter. Soft species, said, his red eyes gleaming with amusement. You complain because we took some medicine. You should be honored that the mighty even notice your little ships. Felt his jaw tighten but kept his voice calm. Those supplies were meant to save lives. Your people agreed to let humanitarian ships pass freely. This is a violation of... Violation, interrupted. You humans speak of rules and agreements as if they matter. In this galaxy only strength matters, and you are not strong. You are weak. The other ambassadors murmured in agreement. The krill representative clicked its mandibles in what had learned was their version of laughter. The delegate flickered with what seemed like amusement. Gathered his papers and left the chamber. His hands were shaking, but not from fear. He had seen this attitude growing for years. The galaxy was mistaking human kindness for weakness. Back on the Mercy, received a message from Earth. It was from Admiral, the head of the United Nations Space Command. She wanted a report on how they were treating human medical personnel. Told the truth. They were rude and dismissive. They took the help but showed no gratitude. Some soldiers had even threatened human doctors. But the humans continued their work anyway because saving lives was more important than pride. Admiral listened to his report in silence. When he finished, she said something that surprised him. Captain, keep records of everything. Every insult, every threat, every violation of our agreements. I hope we never need them, but I want to be prepared. wondered what she meant but promised to do as she asked. On New Pyongyang was meeting with Commander. He was responsible for the colony's defense force, which consisted of 20 small patrol ships and 300 armed personnel. It was barely enough to stop pirates, much less a real military threat. "I'm worried," told her. "Our sensors have detected ships near the system border. They're just watching us, but it makes me nervous." Tried to reassure him. "No, we're a humanitarian colony. We have refugees from a dozen species here. They wouldn't dare attack us." Was not convinced. The respect only strength, and we are not strong here. But believed in the goodness of the galaxy. She believed that even the proud would not attack a peaceful colony full of refugees and families. She was wrong. 3 days later, warships entered the New Pyongyang system. Not just a few ships for observation. 50 heavy cruisers and 200 support vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel and surrounded the colony world. Immediately sent out distress signals. He ordered evacuation ships to launch. But there were not enough ships for everyone. 40,000 humans and 15,000 aliens needed to escape, and they had transport for maybe 10,000 at most. They sent a message. It was simple and brutal. Surrender completely. Become servants of the Empire. Accept that humans were a weak species that existed only because they allowed it. Stood in the communications center and looked at the faces of her people on the screens around her. Families huddled in shelters. Children crying. Aliens who had trusted humans to protect them now facing death. She thought about saying yes. She thought about surrendering to save lives. That was the human way, was it not? Choose peace, always choose peace. But then she thought about what surrender would mean. Her people as slaves. The children growing up believing that humans deserve to be stepped on by stronger species. The message it would send to every other colony in human space. Press the button to reply to her voice was steady. "No." The opened fire. The bombardment lasted 6 hours. Commander fought with everything he had. His 20 patrol ships against 50 cruisers. It was like throwing pebbles at a mountain. One by one, his ships were destroyed. His crews died bravely, buying time for evacuation transports to escape. But there were not enough transports, not nearly enough. His own ship, the Guardian, was the last defense vessel remaining. His crew was dead except for 3 people. His ship was falling apart. But he kept fighting because down below on the planet, people were still trying to escape. The commander sent him a message. "You fight well for such a weak species. Stop now and we will let you live as our servant." Looked at his scanner. It showed fires across the colony. The main settlement was destroyed. The refugee camps were gone. He thought about who had believed so strongly in peace. He hoped she had made it to a transport. He hoped someone had survived to tell Earth what happened here. He armed his ship's self-destruct system and set course for the largest cruiser. "This is for New Pyongyang," he said, and rammed his ship into the enemy at full speed. The explosion took out the flagship and 3 nearby ships. It was a small victory, a meaningless victory, because when they finished their attack, New Pyongyang was dead. 40,000 humans, 15,000 alien refugees, all gone, turned to ash and smoke. Captain and the Mercy arrived in the system 12 hours later. They had raced across space as soon as they received the distress call, but they were too late, far too late. Walked through the ruins of the main settlement wearing a protective suit. The radiation levels were high. Fires still burned in some places. He saw the remains of the school where human and alien children had studied together. He found the hospital where his colleagues had saved thousands of lives over the years. All of it was destroyed. All of those people were dead. His team found a recording device in what used to be the administration building. It was damaged but still functioning. They pulled the data and found his last message. She had recorded it just before the bombardment killed her. Her face appeared on the screen. She looked tired and sad but not afraid. "To whoever finds this," she said, "we tried to do good here. We built something beautiful. We showed the galaxy that different species could live together in peace. They destroyed it all because they saw our kindness as weakness." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "Tell Earth what happened here. Tell them we never stopped believing in peace. Tell them we died hopping for a better galaxy. But maybe peace was never really an option. Maybe we were fooling ourselves." The recording ended. Watched it 3 times, then sent it to Earth, to Admiral, to the Security Council, to every human colony and ship in space. Within 24 hours, the entire human species knew what had happened at New Pyongyang. The response was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen from humanity. Admiral stood before the United Nations Security Council in Geneva. She had spent her entire 40-year career advocating for peaceful solutions to every problem. She had negotiated treaties, prevented wars, and saved countless lives through diplomacy. Today she wore her full military uniform. Today she was not asking for peace. "For 200 years," she said, her voice cold and hard, "we have extended our hand to the galaxy in friendship. We have saved billions of lives. We have fed the hungry, healed the sick, and sheltered the refugees. We have stopped wars and negotiated peace deals. We have asked for nothing in return except to be allowed to live in peace ourselves." She activated a hologram showing images from New Pyongyang, destroyed buildings, burned bodies, dead children. "This is how the galaxy repays our kindness. They attack our colonies and murder our families. The Krill raid our farms and steal our food. They block our trade routes and demand tribute. And when we complain to the Galactic Council, they laugh at us." The council chamber was silent. Every representative from every human nation watched her. "They think we are weak," continued. "They think our kindness means we cannot fight. They have forgotten something important. Humans did not evolve kindness because we were weak. We evolved it because we were the most dangerous predators our world ever produced. We became kind because we were too good at killing each other. We chose peace because we knew what war truly meant." She looked at each council member. "The galaxy wants to see what humans are like when we stop being kind. I say we show them. I say enough is enough." The vote was taken. Every nation voted yes. Every single one. Humanity had made its decision. War. Within hours, messages went out across human space. Ships changed course. Factories retooled their production lines. Peaceful colonies activated defense systems that had not been used in centuries. On Mars, the massive shipyards that had spent 200 years building exploration vessels and hospital ships began producing something different. Warships. Hundreds of them. The designs had been ready for decades, waiting in computer files, hoping they would never be needed. On Luna, weapons laboratories opened their doors. Scientists who had been working on peaceful projects switched to military research. They already had designs ready. Humans had always known what they were capable of. They had just chosen not to use that knowledge. Admiral activated Protocol Titan. This was the contingency plan that every human military commander knew about but prayed would never be necessary. Hidden military bases across human space came online. Dormant weapons platforms woke up. Reserve fleets that had been waiting in storage began to move. The Galactic Council sent an urgent message demanding to know what humans were doing. Ignored them. The Empire sent a message mocking the human response. They said humans were too weak to matter. They said the mighty would crush any human military force. Sent a reply. It was only 3 words: "Come and try." Commander sat in the captain's chair of the UNS Retribution. His ship was brand new, built in just 3 weeks using the emergency production protocols. It was a warship unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Sleek, fast, and armed with weapons that humans had invented but never deployed. His fleet consisted of 150 ships. They were headed to Orion's belt, to a military base. the same base that had launched the attack on New Pyongyang. Had served on the Mercy with Captain years ago. He had been a doctor then. He had saved lives. Now he was going to take them. He did not like the change, but he accepted it. The galaxy had made its choice. His tactical officer, a young woman named, reported that they were approaching the target. The base had 200 ships docked or on patrol. It was one of their major military strongholds. All ships, said calmly, prepare to drop out of faster-than-light travel, weapons free. No warnings, no negotiations. Remember New Pyongyang. The fleet emerged from FTL in perfect formation. They were caught completely by surprise. They had expected humans to send diplomats, not warships. What happened next lasted only 17 minutes. But in those 17 minutes, the galaxy learned something terrifying. Humans had been holding back. Humans had weapons they had never revealed. Humans knew how to fight, and they were very, very good at it. The ships at Orion's belt tried to raise their shields and turn their weapons toward the human fleet. They were too slow. Human ships moved with a speed and precision that seemed impossible. Their formations were perfect. Their timing was exact. Commander gave the order, and his fleet opened fire. Launched metal slugs accelerated to 5% of light speed. The projectiles hit ships and punched straight through their armor like it was paper. Explosions rippled across the enemy fleet. Ships that had survived 100 battles were destroyed in seconds. They tried to return fire, but human ships moved too fast. They dodged and weaved through space with impossible agility. Their shields absorbed hits that should have destroyed them. Then the human ships revealed another weapon: plasma lances, beams of superheated matter that cut through vessels like a knife through water. The energy signatures were beyond anything the galaxy had seen before. But the worst surprise came when they tried to retreat. Several ships attempted to activate their faster-than-light drives to escape. Nothing happened. They were trapped. Human ships had deployed gravity well generators. These devices created zones where FTL travel was impossible. Every ship in the system was stuck. They could not run. They could only fight or die. Most of them chose to fight. All of them died. 17 minutes after the battle began, it was over. 200 ships destroyed. The military base was a field of wreckage and floating debris. Only 7 vessels survived, and only because let them go. He wanted survivors to spread the message. Tell the Empire what happened here. Tell them what humans are capable of. Tell them this is only the beginning. The human fleet suffered losses too. 3 ships destroyed, 18 damaged. But the ratio was clear. Humans had killed 66 enemy ships for every one they lost. The galaxy watched in shock. The peaceful humans, the kind humans, the weak humans, had just demolished a major stronghold in less time than it took to eat lunch. Engineer coordinated the ground assault on occupied worlds. She had spent her career building hospitals and schools. Now she was building invasion plans. It felt wrong, but she pushed those feelings aside. There would be time for guilt later. Right now, there was work to do. Human Marines landed on 6 colony worlds simultaneously. They had thought these Marines were just peacekeepers. They were wrong. Human soldiers were descendants of species that had fought thousands of wars on their home planet. They knew tactics and strategies that they had never imagined. They fought with strength and courage. They had superior numbers and knew the terrain, but humans fought differently. They used tricks and traps. They attacked from unexpected angles. They turned their own strength against them. On the world called Theta Prime, a commander named faced a human force 1/10 the size of his army. He was confident of victory. Warriors were bigger, stronger, and tougher than humans. But the humans did not fight the way expected. They did not charge into battle. Instead, they disappeared. They used camouflage and stealth. They struck at night and vanished before dawn. They destroyed supply lines and communication hubs. They made the army blind and hungry. Within 2 weeks, the army surrendered. They had not lost because they were weak. They had lost because humans understood warfare at a level they could not match. The Krill Collective watched the defeats and laughed. The insect-like Krill were different from where the valued strength, the Krill valued numbers. They bred fast and attacked in swarms that overwhelmed their enemies. The Krill Queen sent a message to humanity. She offered an alliance. She said the Krill had always respected humans and wanted to remain friends. Captain checked the records. Just 3 weeks ago, Krill raiders had attacked a human agricultural colony called New Harvest. They had killed 200 farmers and stolen food supplies. When the farmers tried to defend themselves, the Krill had killed their children too. Sent his response. It was not diplomatic, it was not kind, it was simply, no. His, consisting of 80 ships, jumped into Krill space and began a systematic campaign of destruction. They did not target civilian worlds. Humans were not monsters, but they destroyed every Krill military installation they found. Shipyards, weapons factories, training centers, all of it. The Krill tried to use their numbers advantage. They sent 1,000 small attack ships against fleet. The human ships activated point defense systems that tracked and destroyed incoming threats with computer-guided precision. The Krill swarm was wiped out in minutes. When the Krill Queen finally requested negotiations, made her wait 3 days. Then he gave her his terms. Surrender completely. Pay reparations for every human killed. Accept human oversight of Krill military forces, or face total destruction. The Krill Queen accepted. She had no choice. The Federation and the Depths Alliance watched these events with growing concern. They had not directly attacked humans, but they had supported They had blocked human trade routes. They had demanded tributes. They had laughed when humans complained. Now they were afraid. Scientists stood in her laboratory on Earth and looked at the device on her workbench. It was small, no bigger than a soccer ball, but it contained the power to destroy stars. Humans had developed stellar compression bombs during their early exploration of space. The technology could make stars collapse into black holes. It was meant for deep space exploration, for removing obstacles from travel routes, but it could also be weaponized. Had argued against building these weapons. She had said they were too dangerous, that using them would be immoral. Admiral had agreed. The bombs were never built. Until now. Had given the order, build the bombs, not to use them, but to show the galaxy what humans could do if pushed far enough. Worked for 6 days straight with her team. They built 10 prototype bombs, then did something that shocked everyone. She broadcast the complete technical specifications to the entire galaxy. Every species could now see exactly how the weapons worked, how they could destroy entire solar systems. She included a message with the broadcast. This is what humans are capable of. We have the knowledge and the resources to build weapons that can end civilizations. We chose not to build them. We chose kindness instead. You punished us for that choice. You killed our people. You mocked our compassion. Now you know what we held back. Now you understand what we could have done all along. The message was clear. Humans had been merciful. They had restrained themselves. They had chosen to be kind even though they had the power to be terrible. The galaxy had mistaken that choice for weakness. The galaxy had been wrong. The Federation sent an urgent message to Earth. They apologized for their previous actions. They all forces from human space. They offered full reparations and a permanent peace treaty. The Depths Alliance sent a similar message. They too wanted peace. They too understood their mistake. Admiral accepted their offers. She was not interested in conquest. She did not want to rule the galaxy. She just wanted the galaxy to leave humans alone, to respect them, to understand that kindness was a choice, not a weakness. But the Empire refused to surrender. Emperor was old and proud. He had ruled for 50 years. He had never lost a war. He would not accept defeat from what he still called a weak species. He mobilized the Great Fleet, 10,000 warships, the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. He would crush humanity. He would teach them their place. He would show them that the strong ruled and the weak served. The Great Fleet gathered at the edge of space and prepared for the final assault on human territory. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The Galactic Council held an emergency session at Unity Station. Every ambassador was present. The mood was panicked. 2 of the 4 major powers had already surrendered to humanity. The third, the Empire, was preparing for a massive assault, and everyone knew that if they lost, the balance of power in the galaxy would shift forever. Admiral appeared via hologram. She stood calmly while the alien delegates shouted at her. They demanded she stop the war. They said humans were being too aggressive. They called for sanctions and embargoes. Waited until they finished, then she spoke. For 200 years we asked you to be better. We asked you to respect peace treaties. We asked you to stop raiding our colonies. We asked you to treat us as equals. You laughed at every request. You took our medicine and gave us insults. You stole our food and killed our farmers. You destroyed New Pyongyang and murdered 55,000 innocent beings, including 15,000 refugees we were protecting. She paused and looked at each ambassador. You taught us that kindness is punished in this galaxy. You taught us that only strength matters. Now you complain when we show you our strength. Now you want peace. Where was this desire for peace when our children were dying? The ambassador stood up. His name was, and he was even larger than most. His scales were dark red, almost black. You speak brave words for such a small species. The Emperor has gathered the Great Fleet, 10,000 ships. You cannot stand against such power. Surrender now and we may let your species survive as our servants. Smiled. It was not a kind smile. Tell your Emperor we will meet his fleet at the Threshold Nebula. Tell him to bring every ship he has. Tell him we will show him what humans are when we stop playing nice. She ended the connection. The council chamber erupted in arguments and accusations, but it did not matter what they said. The war would be decided in battle, not in debates. Commander had 400 ships under her command. She was 32 years old and had never fought in a real war before. None of the humans had. They had trained for war, studied it, prepared for it. But until New Pyongyang, they had never needed to actually fight. Now she stood on the bridge of the UNS Defiance and watched the sensor readings. The Great Fleet was approaching the Threshold Nebula, 10,000 ships against her 400. The numbers were terrible. By any logical calculation, she should lose. But humans did not fight by logic. Her tactical officer was a man named. He had been a mathematics professor before the war. Now he was calculating firing solutions and battle plans. Commander, they are moving into the nebula. The gas clouds will interfere with their sensors. Nodded. Good. That means it will interfere with their sensors more than ours. Human sensor technology is better. This was one of humanity's secrets. While the galaxy thought humans were just building hospitals and farms, they had also been developing technology. Better computers, better sensors, better weapons. They had prepared for war while hopping for peace. The fleet entered the nebula in a massive formation. They moved slowly, confidently. They had won so many battles over the centuries. They knew they would win this one too. Emperor himself was on the flagship. He wanted to see the human defeat personally. He wanted to watch their ships burn. He wanted to prove that they were still the dominant military power in the galaxy. Waited until the fleet was deep in the nebula. Then she gave the order. All ships attack Pattern Omega. Remember New Pyongyang. The human fleet struck from 6 different directions at once. They appeared out of the gas clouds like ghosts, moving at maximum speed. Their weapons fired with devastating accuracy. They had expected a traditional battle, 2 fleets facing each other, trading shots until one side broke. But humans did not fight traditional battles. They fought smart. Human ships targeted the flagship first. Dozens of missiles and rounds converged on Emperor's vessel. The shields held for almost 3 seconds. Then they collapsed. The flagship exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the entire nebula. The Emperor died in the first minute of battle. Without their leader, the fleet fell into chaos. Different commanders started giving contradictory orders. Some ships tried to advance, others tried to retreat. The perfect formation fell apart. Human ships exploited every mistake. They moved in small groups, hitting the enemy where they were weakest, then disappearing back into the gas clouds before they could respond. It was like watching wolves hunt buffalo. Fast, efficient, deadly. Engineer was on one of the human ships. Her job was to coordinate the electronic warfare systems. She sent out signals that jammed communications. She hacked into enemy targeting systems and fed them false data. She made the shoot at their own ships by mistake. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the great fleet was destroyed. Of 10,000 ships, only 7 survived. 7 ships out of 10,000. And those 7 survived only because let them go, just like had done at Orion's belt. Survivors were useful. They spread fear. The human fleet had lost 31 ships. It was a painful loss. Each ship had a crew of 50 people. Over 1,500 humans died in the battle, but they had faced impossible odds and won anyway. Back on Earth, people celebrated, but not everyone was happy. Captain sat in his quarters on the Mercy and looked at casualty reports. He knew many of the people who had died. Some of them had served with him. Some of them had been his friends. He had become a doctor to save lives. Now he was part of a military that was taking lives. They had started this war, yes. They deserved what happened to them, yes, but that did not make feel better about it. He thought about and her dream of different species living together in peace. That dream had died at New Pyongyang. Maybe it was never realistic. Maybe the galaxy was too cruel for such dreams. But he still wished things could have been different. Scientists received orders to prepare the stellar compression bombs for deployment. Admiral wanted them ready in case they tried to continue the war. Hated working on them. Every time she checked the calculations, she thought about how many billions of lives these weapons could end. But she did the work anyway. Because if the galaxy wanted to see what humans could do, then humans would show them everything. Every weapon, every capability, every dark possibility. The Empire collapsed within a week of the Great Fleet's destruction. With the Emperor dead and the military broken, the Empire fractured into dozens of smaller states. Some surrendered immediately. Others tried to keep fighting but were defeated quickly. The Krill Collective had already surrendered. The Federation and Depths Alliance had withdrawn from all human territories and were negotiating peace treaties. The war was over. Humanity had won, completely and totally. But victory felt hollow. Yes, the galaxy now respected humans. Yes, no one would ever call them weak again. But the cost had been terrible. Thousands of humans dead. Entire colonies destroyed. And the dream of peaceful coexistence seemed further away than ever. Admiral stood in her office and looked at the reports. Military analysts were already calling this the shortest major war in galactic history. From the attack on New Pyongyang to the destruction of the Great Fleet, only 3 months had passed. 3 months to change everything. 3 months to go from peacekeepers to conquerors. 3 months to become the most feared species in the galaxy. She should have felt proud. She had led humanity to victory against impossible odds. She had protected her people. She had made the galaxy respect them. But she just felt tired. The peace negotiations took place on Unity Station, the same place where Diplomat had been laughed at months earlier. But the atmosphere was very different now. The aliens were not laughing anymore. They were afraid. The former territories were divided into sectors, each one administered by human governors. They would be allowed to govern themselves eventually, but only after they had proven they could be peaceful. For now, Humans were in charge. The Krill Collective's warrior caste was disbanded completely. Their breeding programs, designed to create bigger and more aggressive soldiers, were shut down. The Krill would be allowed to keep a small defense force, but nothing like the massive armies they had once commanded. Every species that had attacked humanity was required to pay reparations. Food, resources, technology, whatever they had of value. The payments would continue for 100 years. Some alien economists calculated that it would take 3 generations to pay off the debt. Human military bases were established on strategic worlds throughout the galaxy. The bases were called peacekeeping stations, but everyone knew what they really were. They were reminders that humanity could reach any corner of the galaxy, reminders that human warships were watching. The Galactic Council was restructured. Humanity now had veto power over any council decision. No major policy could be enacted without human approval. The other species complained but had no choice. This was the price of their arrogance. Captain no longer commanded the Mercy. His hospital ship had been converted into a troop transport during the war. Now he commanded the UNS Watchman, a heavy cruiser stationed in former space. He had a crew of 500 and weapons powerful enough to destroy a planet. He stood on the bridge and looked at the stars. He thought about all the lives he had saved over his 20-year medical career. Then he thought about the battle at Threshold Nebula, where his ship had destroyed 17 vessels. He had killed more beings in 4 hours than he had saved in 2 decades. His hands shook sometimes when he thought about it. He saw the faces of soldiers in his dreams. Not all of them had been bad people. Many were just following orders. Many had families waiting for them at home. But they had chosen to serve an empire that murdered humans, and so they died. Wondered if he was still a good person. He wondered if any of them were. On New Pyongyang, reconstruction had begun. The radiation had been cleaned up. The ruins had been cleared. Builders were working on a new settlement, bigger and stronger than before, but it would never be the same. Sister had survived the attack. She had been off-world on a supply run when they came. Now she stood at the memorial site where 40,000 humans and 15,000 aliens had died. The memorial was simple. A wall of black stone with every name carved into it. His name was there, near the top. So was Commander's. So were all the others who had believed in peace and died for that belief. Had been asked to speak at the memorial dedication ceremony. Representatives from a dozen species attended, including some who came to apologize for their empire's actions. She looked at the crowd and felt anger rising in her chest. These aliens had come to show respect now. Where were they when her sister needed help? Where were they when humans were dying? But she pushed the anger down and spoke the words she had prepared. My sister believed in a better galaxy. She believed that different species could live together in peace. She built schools and hospitals. She welcomed refugees. She showed kindness to everyone she met, and for that kindness she was murdered. Paused and looked at the alien representatives. We did not want this war. We came to the stars hopping to find friends. You gave us enemies instead. You mistook our kindness for weakness. You took our mercy for granted. You laughed when we asked for respect. She gestured to the memorial behind her. This is what your arrogance cost. 55,000 lives. An entire colony destroyed. The dreams of peace that my sister believed in turned to ash. Her voice grew harder. We will not make the same mistake again. We will not be kind to those who would harm us. We will not trust easily. We will not forget what happened here. This memorial stands as a reminder, not just to humans but to the entire galaxy. Touch us again and you will face what they faced. The aliens shifted uncomfortably. Some looked ashamed. Others looked afraid. That was fine with. Let them be afraid. Fear would keep humanity safe when kindness had not. The new Galactic Council held its first session under the reformed rules. The chamber looked the same, But the power dynamics were completely different. Human ambassador sat in the center position, the place of highest authority. He was young, only 25, but he had fought in the war. He knew what humans were capable of. The first issue was a border dispute between two minor species. Before the war, such disputes often led to violence. Now, both species looked to for guidance. He listened to their arguments, consulted with advisors, and made a decision. Both species accepted it without question. This was the new reality. Human word was law. Human judgment was final. The species that had once mocked humanity now sought human approval for everything they did. Found it disturbing. He had not fought a war to become a dictator, but he also understood why it was necessary. The galaxy had proven it could not govern itself peacefully. Someone had to be in charge, and better humans than species that had shown such cruelty. But he wondered how long humans could maintain this role. How long before they became like how long before power corrupted them? Admiral retired 6 months after the war ended. She was only 55, young by military standards, but she said she was tired. She had done what needed to be done. Now it was time for someone else to carry the burden. She returned to Earth and bought a small house in the countryside. She spent her days reading, gardening, and trying to forget the war. But she could not forget. Every night she dreamed about New Pyongyang, about the decisions she had made, about the thousands who had died following her orders. A reporter asked her once if she regretted the war. She thought carefully before answering. "I regret that it was necessary," she said. "I regret that we were forced to choose between fighting and dying. I regret that the galaxy would not let us be peaceful. But do I regret defeating those who attacked us? No. Do I regret protecting humanity? Never." The reporter asked if she thought humanity had lost something in the war, if they had sacrificed their ideals for survival. Looked out the window at the garden she was growing. Flowers and vegetables side by side, peaceful and productive. "We did not lose our ideals," she said quietly. "We proved that ideals need strength to survive. We showed that kindness must be backed by the ability to defend itself. The galaxy wanted to see what humans become when we stop being kind. We showed them. We showed them that we can be both kind and strong. We can heal and we can harm. We can build and we can destroy. That is what it means to be human." Years passed. The galaxy adjusted to the new order. Trade resumed. Colonies grew. The wounds of war slowly healed, though the scars remained. On Unity Station, a young human officer named walked through the halls. She had been born after the war. She knew about New Pyongyang only from history classes. To her, human dominance was normal. It was how things had always been. She passed by alien workers who bowed respectfully when they saw her uniform. She nodded back but did not really think about it. This was just how the galaxy worked. An old maintenance worker watched her go. His name was, and he had fought in the Great Fleet. He was one of the survivors who had escaped Threshold Nebula. He remembered when his people had been proud and powerful. He remembered when they had mocked humans. Now his people served humans. His children grew up learning human languages and human customs. The empire was gone, replaced by human administrators who ruled with efficiency and fairness, but also with absolute authority. Sometimes wondered what would have happened if they had been kinder, if they had accepted human friendship instead of testing human patience. Would the galaxy be different? Would his people still be free? But there was no point in wondering. The past was done. The choice had been made. They had wanted to see what happened when humans stopped being kind. Now they knew. Now everyone knew. On Earth in Geneva, a new memorial was being built. It would honor all humans who died in the war, not just at New Pyongyang, but in every battle, every skirmish, every fight. The inscription was debated for months. What words could capture what had happened? What message should humanity send to future generations? Finally, they chose these words. "We tried peace. The galaxy chose war. We never wanted this, but we refused to die for our kindness. Remember who we wanted to be, remember who we had to become, and never forget the difference." Beneath those words, another line was added. "May we someday be kind again, when the galaxy is ready." Admiral attended the memorial dedication. She was old now, her hair white, her face lined with age and memory. She stood with the other veterans and watched as the monument was unveiled. A young boy approached her after the ceremony. He was maybe 10 years old, bright-eyed and curious. "Excuse me," he said, "are you Admiral, the one who won the war?" She looked down at him and smiled sadly. "I am, though I did not win it alone. Many people fought, many people died." "My teacher says you're a hero," the boy said. "She says you saved humanity." Thought about that? Hero, savior. Those were words people used, but she remembered the faces of the dead. She remembered the thousands of who burned at Threshold Nebula. She remembered turning humanity from healers into warriors. "I did what had to be done," she told the boy. "But heroes are people who have a choice. I'm not sure any of us had a real choice." The boy looked confused, patted his shoulder gently. "Never mind," she said. "Just remember this, being strong is important, but being kind is what makes us human. We should always try to be both." The boy nodded and ran off to join his parents, watched him go, then looked up at the memorial, at all those names, all those lives ended. The galaxy was peaceful now, humans were safe, no one would dare attack them. But the cost had been so high, and wondered if they would ever truly recover. If humanity would ever be the kind, gentle species it had been before the war, or if they had changed forever, becoming something harder, colder, more dangerous. She did not know the answer. She supposed only time would tell. But as she walked away from the memorial, she thought about and her dream of peace. Maybe someday, when enough time had passed, when the wounds had fully healed, humanity could try again, could offer kindness to the galaxy once more. But this time, they would do it with their eyes open. This time, they would be ready if kindness was repaid with cruelty. This time they would be both healers and warriors, both kind and strong. Because they had learned the hardest lesson. Peace is beautiful, but it means nothing if you cannot defend it.